The gap between the two rows that actually pay in the gallbladder code is $372.05 a month. Same surgery, same scar, one line in a symptom log, and there's a second check nobody claims sitting in a completely different part of the rulebook, worth a full month at 100%, and it has nothing to do with your rating at all. Pin that. We come back for it.
This is Erica, and the whole thing runs backwards from what people expect. The gallbladder is gone, and the Department of Veterans Affairs never pays you for the absence. It pays you for what the absence left behind. That one sentence is sitting underneath every story where the C&P exam went sideways. The examiner wrote asymptomatic, and asymptomatic is 0.
Take the timing seriously, because this is not the rule book you studied. The VA rewrote the entire digestive schedule, and the new version took effect in May of 2024. My read is that a lot of you are still arguing with a code that no longer exists.
Fenrir here, and one question first. What does 10% actually buy? Intermittent abdominal pain and diarrhea of 1 to 2 watery bowel movements a day. Not one or the other. Both.
Hi all, I'm Caroline. Pain on its own pays nothing. The clause says and, not or.
30% needs recurrent abdominal pain after meals or at night, plus chronic diarrhea of 3 or more watery bowel movements a day. Here's the ruling. Both halves, every single time. Drop one half and the whole rung disappears underneath you.
Different code entirely if you still have the organ. Stones, attacks, a duct that's scarred shut. That's 7314, chronic biliary tract disease. And 7314 doesn't count stools. It counts attacks on a calendar.
Caroline, you've been holding one of these since this morning and it's still bothering you. Hand it to them.
Reluctantly, because the answer is ugly. Word for word, they took my gallbladder out in service. Why did the VA rate it 0%?
0 is not a verdict on your surgery. It's a verdict on your file. Everything that fixes a file is free on our side. The symptom log, the current pay tables, the filing walkthrough, all of it lives at va.professorerica.com. Read it before you touch a form.
So it's a paperwork injury. It was never a surgical one.
Paperwork injury, right. And the cheapest fix in this entire video is one sentence you have never said out loud. Which code you're in decides whether it's worth anything. Start with the veterans who still have the organ because the rules are completely different and the ceiling is lower than anybody expects. 7314, chronic biliary tract disease.
I printed the section. It's 4 pages, and the gallbladder gets about 11 lines of it. 11. Before we crown that a rating ladder, look at where the top of it actually sits.
Chronic gallstones ride the same code. 7315 tells the rater in one sentence to rate it as chronic biliary tract disease. So stones, cholangitis, a scarred duct, sphincter of Oddi dysfunction, a bile duct the surgeon nicked, they all funnel into the same 11 lines.
So who gets paid at the top of it?
3 or more clinically documented attacks of right upper quadrant pain with nausea and vomiting in the past 12 months. That's 30%, and 30% is the ceiling. Read the word documented twice, Liam, because it's the trapdoor. Not 3 attacks you remember. Not 3 your spouse remembers. 3 that a provider wrote down while they were happening.
Say that back to me because I want the shape right. My read is the disease isn't what moves the number. My paper trail is.
1 or 2 documented attacks is 10%. $180.42 a month. 3 documented attacks is 30%, which is $552.47.
$552. Say that one again, slowly.
47. Same gallbladder, same pain, and the count is doing every bit of the work. 3 attacks in 12 months. Hold that number. It comes back before we're done.
Then the 0 row is the cruel one. No documented attack in 12 months is 0%, and I'd bet most of you watching had the attack. You wrote it out on the bathroom floor at 2 in the morning instead of driving to the emergency room because you're a veteran and that's what we—
Wait, back up. 2. It says 2, doesn't it? 10% for 2.
Do and no, Liam. 0 means 0 attacks. 1 or 2 is where 10% starts. So the man who had 4 and reported none of them is rated identically to the man who has never been sick a day in his life. The rule isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was written to do.
There's a second door into 30%, and almost nobody uses it. If your biliary strictures require dilatation at least once in the past 12 months, that alone is 30%. No attack count needed.
Dilatation, meaning somebody went in and stretched the duct open.
So what does that even look like from the inside? Because I've never seen one.
It starts on an ultrasound, and it is worth watching once. The stone lights up bright white. Behind it, the sound can't get through, so it drops a black shadow straight down the screen. Radiologists call it shadowing. That shadow is the diagnosis.
And that scan is a document. It has a date on it.
Which is the whole point. The full table, what's it called? The schedule of ratings, digestive system, that one. 40 rows, and nobody needs me reciting it. The live page goes below this video, so go argue with the regulation instead of with us. What you keep is the rule Erica just landed. The VA counts what somebody wrote down inside a 12-month window.
Field.
Everything so far still assumes the organ is in there. The next 10 minutes is where most of you actually live, and it's where the money goes missing. Before we keep going, one small favor that actually moves the needle. If this is landing for you, tap like, then subscribe, and turn on the bell so you do not miss the rest. 2 taps, completely free, and it pushes this in front of more people who need it.
Okay, I have to say it because it's the part that makes people furious, and it's also the part they get wrong. The VA is not refusing to pay you for a missing gallbladder. It never offered to.
Right. Read the title of the code out loud and the argument ends. 7318 is not called gallbladder removal of. It is called cholecystectomy, complications of, strictures, biliary leaks. The code names them. The organ coming out is the event that starts the story, and the code is only interested in how the story ended.
You said complications. What is a complication in one sentence to a rater?
A symptom you still have that a provider has written down. That's it. That's the plain version. And under 7318, there are exactly 2 symptoms that count, and you need them both. Call it a double, pain and stool.
Then let's make the room guess, because I think everybody watching has an instinct here, and I think the instinct is wrong. 2 possible rules. Rule 1. The worse your pain, the higher your rating. Rule 2. The pain is worth nothing at all unless the stool count comes with it.
Which one is real? Take a second before Fenrir answers, because one of these is how the code actually reads.
Rule 1, obviously. Pain is the injury, so pain is what the schedule pays for. It always has.
Almost, and it's the most expensive almost in this video. It's Rule 2. Recurrent abdominal pain after eating or at night, and chronic diarrhea of 3 or more watery bowel movements a day. If the pain is unbearable and your stools are normal, the criterion is not met and the rating is 0.
That one takes a second.
So the uncomfortable version is that the safest route through this code runs through documenting your bathroom. I mean safest if the documentation actually exists. That goes in the notebook as question 342, right under the one about why a rule this cheap to satisfy is this expensive to miss.
Then let's ask it the blunt way, because the polite version lets everybody off the hook. Is the VA really paying me based on how many times a day I go to the bathroom?
Yes, so here's what that's worth, because the arithmetic is the argument. Let me run it. 10% veteran alone is $180.42. 30% veteran alone is $552.47. Take one away from the other. $552.47 minus $180.42. That's $372.05 every month. One row down from the top, and the veteran is living the same life.
$372 a month. Run it out a year.
$372.05 times 12. Call it $4,400 and change. $4,464.60 exactly. That's a used car. That's a year of a kid's community college. And it turned on a sentence nobody wrote in a chart.
Let me tell you about Dwayne Foss, because this is the shape it always comes in. 20 years, Navy machinist mate. Gallbladder came out during his last enlistment, routine, textbook. They sent him back to work in a couple of weeks. He gets out. Somewhere in his 40s, the pain starts coming back after dinner.
Did he file?
He filed, but he only told the examiner about the pain, every bit of it, because pain is the thing that wakes you up at night. He never mentioned that he'd been running to the bathroom 4 or 5 times a day for 2 years because he'd decided somewhere along the line that was just how his body worked now. Nobody asked. It's not on the exam sheet unless you say it. He came back 10%.
Same shape as the sleep apnea claims. The body qualified years ago. The chart never caught up, so the rater never saw it.
Which means the fix cost nothing. Not a lawyer, not an appeal. Tell your provider the second half of the truth and let them type it.
If you're half listening to this in the truck right now, here's the one thing to keep. It's the same pot of money either way, one pot. 3 sentences move you from one end of it to the other, and your doctor types all 3 in under a minute. And most of you have never said any of them out loud.
So Dwayne is sitting at 10%, with a body that qualifies for 30 and a file that doesn't. And there is a real argument in this room about what he should do next. Because of one sentence in his medical file, that's the whole gap, and it's where this room splits. Erica says Dwayne files today. On the record, he already has. Fenrir thinks that's how you buy yourself a denial.
He files today, not because today's evidence is good, it isn't, but because the day you file is the day the money starts counting from. An intent to file locks the effective date. Everything you build after that gets paid backwards to it.
And you'd send him in knowing the file only reaches half the criterion? He has the pain, he has no stool count on paper. He fails 73/18 on the day you file him.
He fails at 30. He does not fail at 10. 10% is intermittent pain and 1 to 2 watery stools a day. He has been at 4 or 5 a day for 2 years. There's a real chance he clears 10 today and 30 in a year, and both of them get paid from today.
Fenrir, that's her strongest card. Hit it head on. Why is a locked date not enough?
Because a decision letter isn't a number, it's a story about you. Send in a thin file, take the denial or the 10, and that decision is now the first thing the next rater reads. You've taught the system to doubt you before you built the case.
That's a real cost, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But hold the number I'm about to give you, because it's the one thing in this argument that doesn't care how anybody feels. Wait a year to file, and the year is gone. Not the pain, not the paperwork. The money is what's
How much? Say the number, Erica.
gone with it, $6,629.64. 30% veteran alone is $552.47 a month, times 12.
Where does that number come from? Source it for me on the spot.
Straight arithmetic on the published table. va.gov, the compensation rates page, effective December 1st, 2025. Nothing in that figure is mine.
So you're pricing the weight, not the claim.
I'm pricing the weight. The claim survives a bad first decision. The calendar survives nothing.
You said locked. Sit on that word a second, because I want to know what it actually protects. If he files today at 10 and comes back in a year with the diary, does the 30 pay from today or from the day he brings the diary?
From the date he preserved, as long as he keeps the claim alive through a supplemental claim rather than starting over. That's the entire reason the intent to file exists.
Then here's the thing neither of us has touched, and it changes my answer. The 10 and the 30 are the same code. In a year, he isn't filing a new condition, he's asking for an increase on one he already owns. That's a different animal from arriving cold, and it's the supplemental, that one, that's the lane.
So what moves you, Fenrir, and what doesn't?
Yeah, okay. The effective date is real, and I'm not going to haggle a published table. That one moves me. What doesn't move me is the idea that the diary is optional. He still has to build it. Filing early doesn't earn him 30%, it just stops the clock from eating him while he earns it.
That's fair, and it's the piece I'd have skipped. If he files and then does nothing for a year, he has locked in a 10 and gone to sleep. The date is only worth something if the record catches up to it.
Then the question we've been asking is the wrong one. It was never file now or wait. It's what does filing today actually cost him? And the answer is nothing, as long as the diary starts the same week. So, intent to file this week, the 12-month record starts this week, and the supplemental claim goes in when the record is real. That's the plan, and it's the 138 CFR 4.114 will actually pay. And before we get to the end of this, I'll show you the code in the same neighborhood that doesn't stop at 30. Hold that.
Winnable.
One word in that plan is doing more work than the rest of it put together. Diary. Because there's a page of the rulebook that pays you 100% for a month, and it has nothing to do with any diary at all.
$100% for a month, sometimes 3, paid to a veteran whose rating never moved a single point.
This is the one I told you to pin at the top of the show. It isn't in the rating schedule at all. It's 38 CFR 4.30, and it's called a convalescent rating.
The trigger is not how sick you are. The trigger is the surgery. If treatment of a service-connected disability required surgery necessitating at least 1 month of convalescence, the VA assigns a total rating 100%, without regard to the rest of the schedule.
Read the words without regard to the rest of the schedule again. That's the whole gift. Your 7318 can be sitting at 0 and 4.30 still pays.
How long does it run?
1, 2, or 3 months, counted from the first day of the month after you're discharged. So a gallbladder that comes out on the 18th with a month of convalescence is a total rating from the surgery, and then it runs into the following month.
It lessens the TO pronto, and it's the most skipped line in the whole topic. And that's the small version. Stack the next rule on top of it, and the number roughly doubles. Which I'd call safe advice. I mean safe if the surgeon writes the word convalescent somewhere the rater can find
10 days. Laparoscopic on Tuesday, back at work inside 2 weeks.
Find. And that word is the whole argument, Fenrir. Erica, take it.
The code says necessitating, not took. It's a written medical judgment, not a stopwatch. Uncomplicated laparoscopic, Fenrir's right, usually no, but an open conversion, a bile leak, a stricture repair, a second trip back to theater runs a month or more, and that veteran is precisely who this section was written for.
Yeah, okay, that one's real. I'll take it.
So how many months of back pay is a gallbladder surgery worth?
Careful, there's a wrong word buried in that question, so let me pull it out first. It isn't back pay. Nothing on this page is back pay. What 4.30 pays is a total rating for the months it covers, and what that's worth turns on your dependents, not on your gallbladder. Fix the word and the answer works. A month or 3 at 100% beats most increased claims outright.
Then say the part that isn't in the regulation. Nobody at the VA calls you and offers this. Nobody. You claim it, or it never happened. And the form has no box that says convalescence. It has a box that says current disability and a column beside it asking how the thing ties back to your service.
Write it in plain words. Cholecystectomy residuors, then the date it started or got worse. Then in that last column, the one sentence that connects it to service.
21526 EZ, the initial claim. Same paper whether you're opening one or asking for more.
Which is why I file everything the day it happens. This family files warranties. All of them. Every receipt since 2009, scanned and indexed. At home they call it a personality disorder. I call it evidence.
So what do we call a claim that only exists in your memory?
Denied.
We're 3 exits past the topic, so come back. Same principle, higher stakes. 3 attacks in 12 months, and the only reason anybody can prove 3 is that somebody wrote them down at the time. Caroline's archive is a symptom diary with a longer date range. That's all a symptom diary is.
Miss it, and the clock restarts.
1 month at 100% for a surgery you already had that nobody was ever going to mention. If this is the first you've heard of 4.30, send it to the veteran you know who had this done and never filed a thing.
Nobody volunteers it. Nobody.
Here's the number I told you to hold in scene 4. 30 is not the ceiling of this neighborhood. Is just the ceiling of the code most of you got put in.
7317. Gallbladder, injury of. And it doesn't have criteria of its own. It's a signpost. It tells the rater to rate you under adhesions of the peritoneum, or under biliary tract disease, or under cholecystectomy complications, whichever one is the predominant disability picture.
Adhesions, 7301, which runs all the way to 80%.
This one needs somebody who knows how these decisions actually read, not 3 of us reading a table. I've got a line open. Elias, you there?
Glad to. So short answer, yes, but not the way most people hear it. 7301 is not a bonus code. It is a different disability, and it has its own evidence bar.
Give us the bar.
10% wants symptomatic adhesions after surgery, confirmed by a provider, plus at least 1 of pain, nausea, vomiting, colic, constipation, or diarrhea. 30 adds a medically directed dietary modification.
And 50, who actually gets to 50?
Recurrent obstruction that hospitalized you at least once in a year. Usually it's the veteran who kept landing in the emergency room and never connected it back to the surgery.
And the note under 7317? I read it 4 times and I still don't trust it.
Trust it. When a gallbladder injury is rated analogous to 7301, a finding of adhesions is not necessary. It depends on exactly one thing, and that's whether the adhesion picture is the predominant one.
So who gets paid when a veteran files both?
Nobody files both. 4.114's first sentence forbids it. One evaluation under the code that reflects the predominant picture, elevated a step if the overall severity earns it. Pick your best code and make it carry the weight.
Anything you'd leave them with, Elias?
Last thing, then I'll let you have your show back. The veterans who win these are boring about it. They write things down, nobody else will. Good luck out there.
Elias, thank you. So the second promise from the debate lands right here, and it lands bigger than I said it would, 50, and in the worst cases, 80.
Right. So whichever code you land in, the date follows you. 552.47 a month times 12. Call it 6,600 a year. 6,629 and 64 cents, exactly. I outline these episodes out loud on long walks, so I hear that figure as a year of walking. Yours buys something better. Go get it.
To borrow Erica's word, 7318 is a double. Pain and stool, both or nothing. 7301 isn't a double. It's a ladder, and it climbs.
Then here's tonight. File the supplemental. Wait, no, I had that backwards. The 21526EZ is your initial claim. The supplemental is what you bring the diary back on later.
Yeah, and 3 attacks in 12 months is still the line if the organ is still
11 lines of regulation. One of them is worth a used car.
in there, and yes, a used car nobody claimed.
The regulation isn't the problem. The blank chart is. The blank chart.
Say the last word on it, Erica. You earned it.
Walk away with this. Both things are true. The code is fair, and your file is empty. Only one of those is yours to fix.
The VA never took anything from you when they took the gallbladder. It just stopped writing things down about you. Everything we did today was putting the pen back in your hand.
Pen back in your hand, yes. Next time we go after the code sitting right next door, the one that turns a service-connected condition into a second separate rating you never filed for. If today made you angry, that one is going to make you file.
Here's what you keep out of this. Tonight, you can close a $372 a month gap with one sentence said out loud to your doctor. Not a lawyer, not an appeal. A sentence, and it's yours to say because nobody is going to say it for you.
Open your last after-visit summary and search it for the word diarrhea. If it isn't in there, that absence is the entire reason you're at 10% instead of 30.
If this saved you a step, hit like and subscribe so the next veteran in the same spot finds it before their exam instead of after it. What use you that to ever you decide? And here's the one only you can answer. Did anyone at the VA ever ask you about your bowel habits after your gallbladder surgery? Put it below. Go log tonight's number and we'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. The question you did not ask is the one you will regret. See you next time.
Not bad, Liam. I would give that a solid 8 out of 10. This is Professor Erica. Thanks for watching and signing off.